Yesterday, Nigel Farage was in Parliament trying to bring about his bill to leave the ECHR. Labour weren't there, they decided to abstain from all of these goings on. But Nigel Farage stood up and said his piece. But more than anything, I thought it was the behaviour of the MPs around him and the state of British politics and the parliamentary system. I was just staggered at the behaviour of these fools and, the facial gestures that were on these people and, the way they're shaking their heads like bobblehead. I mean, this is our parliament here, laid bare. This is about a 3-minute clip here, but I thought it was well worth covering just to see the state of Parliament.
Speaker, I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to make provision for the United Kingdom to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights and to make further provision in connection with the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from that convention. In many ways, this is unfinished business. On June 23rd, 2016, in the biggest democratic exercise in the history of these islands, the British people, despite being told by all the businesses and all the trade unions and much of the press and most of this House, managed, despite everything, children be quiet. managed.
Order. I will be responsible for maintaining order in this chamber. Nigel Farage.
Yes, Madam Deputy, I'm sure you will allow me the opportunity to continue to try and say something without such constant interventions, and I thank you for that. And we voted clearly by a massive margin for the British people to bring back the sovereignty. And by the way, what makes me laugh about this isn't just the sovereignty of this country, it's the sovereignty of this very chamber and the people within it to bring power back to this very place, and that is what we voted for. And of course, one of the most important subsets, one of the biggest reasons for that vote to happen was the deep alarm at the huge numbers of people coming into our country. The fact that effectively we had open borders, making us poorer in every way. Now, of course, our membership of the European Council, of the European Convention, and then its writing into British law in 1998 kind of enshrined this, and it's what I think Tony Blair wanted us to do. Now, I believe that Brexit cannot be complete, all the while we're subject to a foreign court and frankly, a piece of legislation brought in by the Blair government upon which judges can choose their own political interpretation. We are not sovereign, all the while we are part of the ECHR, the European Council, and its associated court. It's as simple as that. And do you wonder? It's marvellous to see the intellectual levels of debate in this place, it really is. Do you wonder that out in the country there is growing frustration?
Order. Can I remind members that the honourable gentleman has a 10-minute rule bill in front of this House and should be listened to without interruption? Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I was talking about fear growing in the country, anger growing in the country. I sense there's also a bit of that growing in this chamber as well.
And these people are children. These aren't serious people. Or perhaps they are serious people and they're using the only levers that they can pull in order to try and humiliate Farage when he's in Parliament and, by extension, the Reform Party. But I think what I was thinking when I was watching that, well, there was two things I was thinking. The first thing I was thinking was when they were shouting at him, they were actually shouting at people like me. When they were shouting names at him, calling him Putin's pet, etc., they were saying that to me, because I'm a supporter of reform, because I think they're the only political party that has a chance of getting into power that's going to change anything about our political system. And so they are the only option, I think, to change some of what's happening in the country. But, I got the distinct impression when they were sitting around rolling their eyes. I mean, this just looks such childish behaviour. This is supposed to be Parliament. This is supposed to be where intellectual debate happens. And look at the state of how they're going on, shouting over the top of each other, rolling their eyes and, pretending to each other that they're more virtuous than the person sitting next to them. And I was disgusted with all of it. And just to underline what he was talking about, and bearing in mind the hellhole that has been created by the ECHR policy, I was looking on the internet yesterday and, to underline Farage's policy here. And there was a lady called into Julia Hartley-Brewer who is sick of people that she knows being stabbed.
Oh, I live in the borough right next to Hillingdon.
Yep.
And I moved into my house in 2019. My local shop, there's been 3 stabbings, 1 murder since then.
Wow.
My friend was murdered last year up on the high street. Girl I know was murdered in Southall Park. The government are failing us. I'm so scared for my children. I have a 22-year-old son, and I'm begging him to move out of the country.
Oh my goodness, I feel for you.
What are these politicians doing to us? They're putting our children in so much danger. They're putting everyone in danger. And they're not doing nothing to help us.
And that's the thing a lot of us feel. How many is too many?
They're pushing us to do something that we don't want to do. We are peaceful people. British people never vote against their government.
Yeah.
They're going to push us to it because they're not listening to us. Our friends, our family are dying. I had a cousin murdered 20 years ago who was stabbed to death, and nothing's changed, Julia.
And so, as you can see there are people around the country who are quite literally scared for their life. And in the midst of all this, in the midst of all of this immigration and illegal migration and murder and death and all the rest of it, what do our members of Parliament focus on? Well, when they're not rolling their eyes, or when they're not calling people names and calling for investigations into Russia collusion, if that's a thing, Mr. Davey here, trying something that's already been tried somewhere else a little while ago, I think. You've got morons like Dawn Butler here, who thinks the best use of her time is to talk about reparations for black people, and here is her letter calling for a formal investigation into which Sarah Pochin quoted some facts. And this is one of the reasons why people are so disillusioned with politics at the moment. The Westminster bubble, as it's been coined for quite some time, is exactly that. It's a bubble. These MPs exist, and they exist within the realms of media as well, and all of these institutions have essentially been captured by an ideology. So when you get people like Nigel Farage standing up and saying his piece, it is quite literally not allowed. This type of thought crime is not allowed. And you see, outside of that, there's people around the country deeply concerned. They're looking to their parliamentarians and they don't know what to do. And as the lady said, we don't want to do anything about this, but that's what it's coming to. And in general terms, I do hope that reform gets in and does something, because if we continue as we are in deep trouble, because these MPs, they're just existing to kind of feather their own nests. They're not there to help anybody in the country, in my opinion, and by and large they just disgust me. Thanks very much for your time.